Have you ever wondered why people who grew up in the 1970s seem to have this weird superpower? The ability to sit alone with their thoughts for hours without feeling a shred of anxiety? It's not just nostalgia. It's the result of a very specific psychological architecture. They have this unshakable inner core because they had to figure out who they actually were long before algorithms started dictating their every move. Believe me, it wasn't luck. It was the result of a raw and effective psychological training ground. By the end of this video, you'll understand how a total lack of modern comfort created the most resilient version of the human psyche. Imagine you're 16 and you want a car more than anything in the world. But back then, nobody just handed you the keys. You had to go out and get a job. You spent your summer scrubbing cars at the local wash or stocking shelves after school, saving every single dollar. When you finally handed over $700 in cash for an old Pontiac that leaked oil and had a jammed door, you weren't just buying a machine, you were buying autonomy. In that moment, a belief was hardwired into your brain. I can make things happen for myself. Psychologists call this a high internal locus of control, the foundation of the kind of confidence that seems so rare today. Our parents weren't helicopters circling over us 24/7. They were more like employees at a massive Home Depot. You knew they were in the building somewhere, but when you actually needed help, there wasn't a soul in sight. If you scraped your knee, you were told to rub some dirt on it and keep moving. It sounds harsh by today's standards, but that's exactly how stress inoculation works. We learn to rely on ourselves because the option of someone is coming to save me just didn't exist. Your car was your ticket to a world without GPS or instant messaging. If you wanted to find your friends, you had to read the town, checking the usual hangouts, recognizing familiar headlights, analyzing the crowd at the local burger joint. The real magic happened at the mall. It wasn't about shopping, it was a social laboratory. You learned to read microexpressions, to sense tension or chemistry without any digital help. You learned people's true intentions through their actions, not their profile descriptions. This developed what scientists call advanced social cognition, making that generation much more perceptive than today's teens who see the world through filtered screens. Dating in the 70s was a high-stakes psychological workout. You had to call her house on a landline, knowing her father might pick up. That required serious nerve, facing the gatekeeper and overcoming the fear of rejection in real time. There were no likes, no quick DMs. If she said yes, you had to show up at her door, look her parents in the eye, and take responsibility. It taught you that relationships require effort and physical presence, not just an exchange of emojis. Your relationships in the 1970s were a genuine training ground for emotional intelligence. You weren't just dating, you were navigating complex social rituals. When a boy gave a girl his class ring wrapped in yarn or his Letterman jacket, it was a public declaration of commitment, visible to the whole school. Breaking up meant the formal return of these items, often handled through friends to avoid face-to-face awkwardness. Without a digital status to update or a place to vent online, you had to handle rejection and commitment in person. It taught you that love requires physical presence, a real plan, and the responsibility of having enough gas money to make it home by curfew. Your part-time job after school wasn't just a line on a resume. It was a survival school. Working at gas stations or pizza joints meant dealing with random customers and managers who weren't family friends. You learned to handle difficult people, manage a cash register, and close up shop on your own. Psychologically, this hardwired you for independence. When things went wrong, you didn't call your parents. You solved the problem yourself. This early self-reliance became a core part of your identity. You knew the value of $1 and the weight of your own word. A unique part of your development was unstructured time. Friday nights spent stretching a 15-foot phone cord for privacy often turned into aimless drives or sitting in a diner for 2 hours over a single cup of coffee. No one was there to entertain you. And you learned that empty time wasn't a crisis. It was an opportunity for self-discovery. Studies show that teenagers who experienced these periods of unstructured social time develop a stronger sense of identity and better emotional regulation as adults. You are the people who can sit through dinner today without checking a phone every 2 minutes. Even those basement parties without adult supervision served as a form of social education. In a world without cameras or social media, you learned through direct experience. You had to figure out your own internal boundaries. You had to recognize when a situation was getting too wild. You had to learn how to get a friend home safely when they had too much. You learned to navigate drama and social dynamics in real time without parents swooping in to manage it. This is why today you intuitively understand social cues and can adapt in situations where other generations might simply freeze from stress. In the privacy of a 1970s bedroom, behind a closed door, you didn't just listen to music, you built an identity. Your record collection was a curated reflection of who you were, formed by hours spent in record stores, studying gatefold sleeves and liner notes. There was no shuffling through thousands of tracks. You committed to 40 minutes of music, front to back, allowing the needle to trace the grooves while you processed your thoughts. This forced solitude wasn't isolation, it was identity formation. You learned to be comfortable with your own mind, developing a solid core sense of self independent of anyone else's validation. This internal strength was put to the test during your first real heartbreak. Without social media to blast an ex or seek instant validation from a digital circle, you had to actually feel the pain. You wrote letters that stayed in drawers. You drove through the night just to feel the sting. Psychologists call this emotional resilience, the ability to experience devastating emotions without being destroyed by them. By surviving that pain in private, you learned that heartbreak is temporary, a lesson that allows 1970s teenagers to handle adult relationship problems with a unique calm. The rhythm of your life was defined by the capacity to wait. Camping out overnight for concert tickets, waiting by the landline for a specific call. You understood that anticipation was a vital part of the experience. Recording a favorite song off the radio required surgical precision and intense focus. A clean recording was a hard-won trophy. Research shows that learning to delay gratification in this way leads to more stable relationships and higher life satisfaction in adulthood. Because you couldn't have everything instantly, the things you did achieve, relationships, concerts, music, carried a much deeper weight. Failure, too, was a private and transformative teacher. When you didn't make the team or get into your first-choice college, there was no public record of your defeat. No parent stepped in to demand a do-over. You felt the sting. You processed it. You moved on. This fostered anti-fragility, the ability to grow stronger because of adversity. You learned that rejection was information, not identity. This created an internal voice that, when faced with an obstacle, simply asks, "What's next?" Finally, navigating the social hierarchies of the 1970s required sophisticated social intelligence. Without screenshots or likes to gauge your worth, you had to read micro-expressions and sense shifts in group dynamics in real time. You learned who to trust through face-to-face interaction. You discovered the difference between a real friend and someone who just wanted to be seen with you. While the modern world is obsessed with performing for an audience, you spent your youth becoming yourself without one. You are living proof that the deepest connections happen off-screen, and that an unshakable sense of self is built in the quiet moments between the noise. Do you feel that same anti-fragility in your soul? Drop a comment with your story and subscribe for more deep dives.